having you an L roll here, you don't want to just pull straight to this. You got to have a form so that it don't pull the top or something of this off of there. L roll with a C-clamp works great. You can use screws, whatever you want to make it work, but this is a pretty efficient device. Most people are familiar with it. Simply C-clamp a L roll on there and give yourself somewhat of angle. What we have right here is a tube that has the slots in it. Now, I've already positioned this so that you can see the way it's supposed to work. But as my die spins around, I need that slot to be facing right at the point of contact when that cuts, because I want my air focused on that hole in that particular item right when it cuts. This will help propel the dot, if not out of the web, cock it a little bit so that it gets picked up by our blade here, okay? So as I'm doing that, it's real simple to do. Get it set up so that what you do, mount your screw in the press to hold your clamp. Loosen this clamp here. Turn this until you feel your air coming out of that hole at that angle mainly. Once you get it set, locked in position, tighten the set screw down and you're good to go. It's not that difficult, but it is very important if you're going to air eject dies that you have it set up this way. Now we're ready to hook our air up. Before we hook our air up, we're going to show you how. Once the press starts running, you're not going to be able to hear me, so we're going to try to give you a good visual aid of how it's operating. So watch closely and hopefully you'll learn something. After about 800 feet of stock, cutting a 1/4 inch circle every 2 inches, you can see a handful of dots have hit the floor. Most of them are from when we first started up. Like I said, it's going to reduce the amount by about 98% that hit the floor. You can't beat that. What we're going to be doing this afternoon is we're going to be going over one of the things that I've recently started doing. It's fairly new in the industry. Real fascinating, fairly easy to do. We're going to be embossing with regular photopolymer plates. It's been done a while in certain parts of the world, I guess you could say. It's really just now catching on the mainstream. The two companies that I'm working with on this and have been very successful at it is Rotometrics, and then Trinity Graphics provides the plates. A couple of things we're going to do, as in everything, we're going to show you the proper procedure for setting up embossing, and then we're going to show you the way that pressmen tend to do it. It's much easier, and the things we try to teach here at the school are the most efficient, easiest way to do it. First thing I'm going to do is go through some of the parts we have before us and kind of show you how they operate. First thing I'm going to do is show you we got two tools here. It's the only tools we're going to need. We have our blocks here. We have a side-to-side adjustment block with the spring load block. This will be for the female, the top. And then we have our twist block and a square block, which we will use these opposite of the way you normally use them just because of the way this sets up. We also have die washers, which everybody's familiar with. I have in front of me two specially designed cylinders that are undercut to a 96 tooth repeat. Now, one of the things, just like buying an embossing die or anything else, you have to stay in the repeat of what you're printing. This here is a 96 tooth, so it's a 12-inch repeat, and I can do it in multiples of how many ever I wish inside that. I have two cylinders, two anvils, plate anvils is what I like to call them. And they're a little bit different from each other. I first have a male plate anvil, and the way you can tell it's the male is simply because on the end, the screws are set. So this gear cannot twist, move, or anything. The male needs to go on the bottom because it's going to emboss up. I have 4 die washers on this, which line up perfectly with my press gear. So when I start out, I need to make sure I have 4 on the inside. Then we'll adjust to slack on the outside. The second cylinder I have is the female. Now this is the one where it kind of gets tricky with your adjustments. The way this is designed is you mount the plates, and we'll go into that. Mount both the plates centered up, put your male in, pull it down, put your female in, put your stock through them, and then adjust your female to your male. The way this is done is simply by loosening these 3 screws right here. If you can see, they have slippage in them. Once I loosen these 3 screws, then I can go to the inside portion of my gear, and I have a set screw right there, and I have a set screw right there, which when they sit like this, the way this is designed is when I loosen these screws, I can loosen this set screw, tighten this set screw, and it'll move my gear that much adjustment that way so that I can turn my gearing and adjust my image around a little bit at a time. Anything less than 1/8 of an inch. If it's 1/8 of an inch, I'm just going to simply pick up the die and roll it into position. This is for fine tuning. And then we will also have our slip block on here to adjust from side to side. Not too difficult to do, but as in all things, pressmen tend to find a much easier way to do it. We will be showing you the easier way as well as that way. The proper way it's designed is to be done that. What we're going to do for you is we're going to mount the plates, and we're going to mount just the male plate. Then we will simply take the female plate, lay it on top of the male plate, image to image, and tape it down. When we do this, we can simply put tape on this plate, slide it down evenly, set it dead on top, and it's already engaged. I was shown that by pressmen and that have been doing this for a while, and I tell you, it's light and day difference on your setup time. But we'll be showing you both ways. Key thing to mounting these plates is just like any other cylinders that you're going to mount. If you have a heavy-duty plate mounter, it fits right on there. What I'm going to do is mount them the way I always mount them, simply just to show you how it can be done. It's pretty efficient, and I have a pretty good bit of success with it. I will always mount my male plate first. So I'm going to simply slide my female out of the way, turn my male plate around. I'll check and make sure. I know it is automatically because I prior made sure that it was the one with the washers on it so I wouldn't get confused by accident. Now I'm simply going to attempt to mount my plates. I'm going to simply lay my tape down, and I'll use this cylinder here as a guide to show you what I'm doing. But as you look right here, each of these, just like your print cylinder, have a score. It's a fairly deep score. Use a razor knife or whatever it is that you have. Push your tape all the way up against it. Put your razor blade right inside the score. Cut quick. Generally, if you cut quick, it tends to cut a lot straighter and even for you. Now I'm going to simply just twist my cylinder around as I wrap the tape on it. Okay. Now I want to make sure that if it does, any of it gets over here, which not very much, but you just want to make sure you don't have no tape on your bearers. Now that's simply covered plenty fine for now. I want to make sure that my male plate, which is the raised image, is going to have no trouble at all fitting on there. Looks great. Now I'll proceed to do the female. I go ahead and tape both my cylinders to begin with, even though I won't be mounting them both. Same thing, I just want to flip that up, let it fall where it will, cut inside the groove. I want to spin this around. Making sure I'm rubbing down all the bubbles the whole way. Like so. Now I have both my cylinders mounted with tape. I can now proceed to mount the plate just like I would on a regular plate mounter. A couple of things you want to be sure to do, as in always, cover your seam with a highlighter so that you can reposition it and make sure there's no wrinkles in it at all. Here again, I'm going to simply draw a line on here with my highlighter. You know, I recommend that you do this on a plate mounter. It's a lot easier. A lot of pressmen you'll run into that's been running a press for some time can mount plates fairly easy without a plate mounter. I happen to be a person who really prefers just a simple mount simply because that's what I grew up on and that's what I know. But use a plate mounter. It will help you, especially if you're not proficient at mounting plates. I'll also just put me a couple of little extra lines like in mounting plates just to make sure I don't have it stick down too much. Anytime you're going to do embossing, make sure that you mount your embossing plates first. Make sure that you get your press embossing and then register your plates to them, your printing plates that is. Once you put this embossing in and you get it set, it's no fun trying to adjust it. So what I do is I get everything done prior to my plates. I don't even mount my printing plates until I have my embossing set. Then I'll mount one printing plate, pull it into register, make sure everything fits. It don't take that long to do, but it sure takes a long time if you have to remount a lot of plates. This particular job here is a 7-color, 325-line screen process job. So we want to make sure it's right before we start mounting a bunch of plates. I'm strictly going to eyeball this. I do have a straight line on here I can use, and it's the groove that's in the cylinder. The odds are it's going to be crooked my first time, but I'm going to show you a trick about that when it comes to mounting plates. I simply want to just spin this around, and as you can see, it's crooked, and it's a good bit crooked. But that's okay, because now's when I really start mounting. I'll simply take my leading edge and draw a line on it. That tells me my starting point, even though I didn't have a straight line. I see that my plate needs to shift to my left a little bit. This allows me to pull the plate up without doing any damage and reposition with this line. Simply pull it up, put it down in a brand new spot. Spin it around. I'm much, much closer. Here again, if I want to, just to be sure, because I am pretty close, I can draw another line. Lift it up one more time and really make a fine-tune adjustment. Spin it around, and I mean, I am probably straight, but just being paranoid, I want to pull the air out of it. I won't readjust my line this time. I'm just going to pull it at a good angle down to make sure all the air's out. And as you look at that, you'll see that that's a very straight mount. This is the critical one, because this is the one, if it's not straight, this one will never be straight, especially the way we're going to do it. We will now load this into the press and simply wrap this one around it. Engage my zippers, have to zip together. This one will be wrapped around it like so. I'll engage it, spin it around. It'll be taped down, and then this one will be set dead on top of it. Very quick, very accurate, very easy to do. A couple of key things you have to keep in mind. We run a what I call a twist block, but it's an adjustment block. This block is used on the operator side of the Mark Indy 2200 because